have I have 11 pages of notes. So buckle in.
Deep down I would trade the world to see my son and wife. I'm just a man.
Today's drink of the day is a 0 sugar Sam's Cola in a great value water bottle because I don't like when it's super fizzy. Let's get started. Point number 1 is the dialogue. Okay? The dialogue felt so rushed. It did not feel natural. It was like we were going through every convo just to get it done. It felt like they were literally just reading off of a script. It didn't feel like acting. In some ways it did, but in a lot of ways it did not. The acting was subpar and the accents were so American and just felt so modern, and it was incredibly upsetting. Also, they did not include the dialogue between the gods, between Zeus, Athena, Hermes. Those are the main ones. Like, there's actual like dialogue between these people. There's a whole nother side to this, a whole nother universe where that Christopher Nolan just decided not to include, as well as a million other things, and also it decided to include things that were not in the story. So yes, there's literally two sides of where some gods want Odysseus to get home, and then there's some gods who don't want Odysseus to get home, and it's literally why it's such a struggle. Next topic, okay, is the baby.
Aww.
Okay, as much as I did not want to see that, and I understand why they didn't, they showed some pretty insane things. So I don't understand why they left this out. If you don't know, Odysseus throws a baby over the walls of Troy in fear that he will grow up and seek out revenge for the Trojan horse and what he did. So yeah, anyways, next. The casting. The casting did not really feel thought out, and it feels like we're just rotating the same people for so many movies. And I'm not even gonna talk about how Matt Damon does not fit Odysseus. Like, yes, he's buff. Okay, anybody can be buff. I'm so sorry. It does not fit. Next is Hermes. Brother was just completely left out of the movie, and he is such an important part of the story. They didn't even include him. He helped Odysseus so much in the story. Hermes went to the island where Calypso had Odysseus captive for 7 years. And under orders from Zeus, Hermes flies down on his little golden friggin', what are they called? On his golden sandals, okay? To command Calypso to let Odysseus go. That is how it happened. He literally forces Calypso to give Odysseus the tools and timber needed to build a raft and finally sail home. He didn't find pieces of his ship to construct a raft. If it's a lie, why would you do it? Next topic, okay? Mythology. This movie did not feel mythological really in any way other than they had the Cyclops and like they showed Scylla. Like, where are all the gods? Where is all of the gods like powers? Like, wait, like I understand whenever they played thunder and lightning, then that was Zeus. But it's like, why leave it out? Like, those are such key components of the story. Why would you just leave it out? It does not make any sense to me. Next. This one. Okay. Poseidon. He wasn't even a character. In the story, he literally is supposed to have dialogue with himself. Like, you're supposed to see, like, the anger. You're supposed to know what he looks like. And they didn't even give him... He wasn't even casted as somebody to play. Next one is the Lotus Eaters. The lotus in the movie was displayed as a flower. And maybe it does have flowers on, like, the plant. But they eat the fruit, not the flower. And I know that's very small, but it matters, okay? It matters. And they ate the fruit, and it's not introduced where it's introduced in the movie. In the movie, it's introduced with Calypso, and Odysseus is eating it. They completely just left out the Lotus Eaters in the beginning of the story. After Troy, they had landed on an island inhabited by, like, really weird but, like, nice people, and they consumed the narcotic fruit of the lotus plant. And upon eating the fruit, Odysseus's men, they instantly lost their memory of their home, and they didn't want to leave. They lost all desire to return. And Odysseus literally had to force the men back to his ship. Like, he dragged them back to his ship. And they didn't even put that in the movie. I understand the Odyssey is a very long story. I understand having to cut some stuff out. But when you cut out big chunks of the plot, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really make sense at all. Okay? There's just... whatever. Let's go next, okay? These next 3 things genuinely made me really upset. Okay? And I feel like I'm just... all of this is just making me upset. This is not the best review, okay? That's not my fault. Okay. The floating island and the windbag. How can you just leave out the floating island and the windbag, okay? After they escaped the Cyclops, and I know I'm kind of going out of order here, but after they escaped the Cyclops, Odysseus and his men find refuge on a floating island with the windkeeper, Aeolus. Aeolus helps Odysseus by giving them a bag of wind. But, however, once they reach the shores of Ithaca, they actually make it back to Ithaca, okay? The crewmen get so jealous and suspicious that there's hidden treasure in the windbag that they all open it up. It unleashes such a heavy storm. It blows them back to, I think the island is Aeolia, I think. I don't know, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. And the king who gave them the windbag sends them away because it's like, the gods sent you back here, you must be cursed. Get away from me. I don't want to mess with you anymore. And they didn't even include this either in any way. They could have easily shortened that story and then included the windbag. Like, that was the reason why the winds were so bad, was because of the windbag. Next, in this one, I'm fine. Polites. He wasn't even in the movie. He was one of Odysseus's closest friends, okay? And he was supposed to represent the heart of the ship and the crew. And you're just gonna leave him out and then include people that aren't really even in the story? You can't even say you didn't have enough time, you had 3 hours, and you added things in that were never supposed to be in there. Yes, he dies. Aww. I'm so sorry. Well, everybody dies except for Odysseus. So that wasn't even a spoiler. Okay, apparently just found out that the old man that was on the boat that barely spoke and didn't do really anything was Polites. Which almost makes me angrier, because why did we give an old man Polites and he wasn't even important? I'm so sorry. I mean, everybody's important, don't get me wrong, but we talk about a fictional movie here, alright? Ain't no way that old man was Polites. Ain't no way they disrespected Polites like that. He wasn't even Odysseus's he wasn't even Odysseus's closest companion. He was just there. Girl, no. Okay, next is Athena casting. It's not. We've already talked about the casting, okay? I'm not gonna complain again, okay? You know how I feel. She was not dressed up like the warrior that she is. She's the god of war, is she not? And she's dressed up just in like white garments and fabric. Also, she did not really give any direction. There was barely any dialogue other than Odysseus talking to her about why aren't the gods talking? And she's like, do you not see the lightning? Do you not see the thunder? Do you not see pain? That's the gods talking. What? No, because no. She was supposed to have so much more dialogue and actually like be a mentor to Odysseus, not a ghost flying in the wind. Circe. The whole thing was just not the right story, like at all. So Circe is the sun god's daughter, okay? The sun god, the one with all of the cows that the men ate and they shouldn't have. Why is she living in a hut? She's the sun god's daughter. She has things. She lives lavishly. Why is she in a hut? What are we doing? And also, that gruesome, weird, freaky way that she turned his men into pigs was not the way she turned them into pigs in the original story of the Odyssey. Homer would have been so disappointed. Very, very disappointed. When they got to the island, half of the crew and half of the other crew separated. Half of the crew that stayed with the boat was with Odysseus. So Odysseus was not alone, he was with half the crew. The other half with Eurylochus. Odysseus is like kind of like right-hand man, even though he like kind of sucks. I keep running out of space and I have to keep restarting. Eurylochus and his crew, they go up to try and find provisions, and they encounter Circe, and Circe lures them in by offering them food, and I think she offers like cheese or bread, not some weird stew in some weird hut. And then Eurylochus is like being a big brain, having a big brain for once, okay? And he's like, this is odd, I'm dipping. He leaves and watches all of his men turn into pigs. And the way that they turn into pigs, they eat the food, they fall asleep, and when they wake up, they're pigs. They don't get molded in some freaky, witchy way, okay? And then Eurylochus sees what's happening and runs back in tears. And he's like, they turned into pigs, we gotta get out of here. We gotta leave them behind. And Odysseus is like, what the frick? He's like, no, I have to go save my men. So he goes back up there. He gets help from Hermes. He doesn't do it by himself. And Hermes gives him a plant to eat so he doesn't turn into a pig. And then there's this whole ordeal where he goes to Circe. Basically, Odysseus gets her at knife point and is like,
turn my men back or you'll die.
And she's like, okay, fine. Another thing that Christopher Nolan wanted to leave out was that Odysseus has a kid with Circe. Oh! And they're also on that island for a year.
What?
A year. Next. And this is kind of in line because after they've spent a year on Circe's island, then they go to Hades because Circe tells them that if you want to know how to get home, you gotta go talk to Tiresias. So, when they're in Hades, one thing that genuinely, guys, we've been robbed right under our noses, okay? All of us. When he gets to Hades and he sees all of his dead men, he's supposed to see his mom that he didn't even know died. He didn't even know that she was dead. She told Odysseus that she did not die from illness, but she died purely from a broken heart, from the agonizing grief and longing for her missing son. And They left that out. Odysseus, being overwhelmed with sorrow, tries to hug his mom 3 times, but he can't because she's just a spirit, and she just slips right through his arms. Also, the dead people are supposed to emerge like a cloud and not from the ground with real bodies. And also, Tiresias tells Odysseus that his wife is basically in danger because of the aggressive suitors. So brother locks in and really tries to get home this time. He does not really care. I mean, he cares. He really does care. And that's another thing that I'm going to talk about, that they just really don't show how much he really cares about his crew, even though they're silly a lot and really selfish and very, very rebellious. But he really locks in and tries to get home, whatever it takes. He really decides, whatever it takes, I'm getting home to my wife. Which goes into my next point, the crew. There wasn't really any loyalty towards Odysseus, even though they were like kind of rebellious, like really rebellious. They were still really loyal, especially in the beginning. And with the sirens, they were very, very loyal, and they didn't really show how much they really cared for Odysseus. In the movie, they gave up way too quickly, and also in the story, the original story, there's an emphasis on them screaming for Odysseus when they're dying, because that's their captain. They love him. They look to him for answers, and they were screaming his name, and that is a big part. And again, just another thing that Christopher Nolan just decided to leave out. Next, Antinous. That brother was a coward, plain and simple. There was no backbone in that man. He was just cowering and just like hiding behind a pillar and just not really willing to fight.
Somebody help me! Brenda!
Okay, in the original story, in the book, he is a highly dangerous leader who would not back down from a fight. He's terrifying. Okay, he's really scary. The movie, Robert Pattinson, his acting, the way that they probably told him how to act, just portrayed him as weak and as like secretly really emotional and really jealous. He was probably jealous, but not in like a weakling way. You understand? So that's how I feel about Antinous. Next, Athena and Telemachus. Athena, in the original story, is supposed to help Telemachus, but she didn't show up once for him in the movie at all. She barely showed up for Odysseus. So she's the one who tells him to go look for his father and stays with him and is the one that speaks for Telemachus when Telemachus becomes too shy to speak to a different king. And also, Athena's the one who helped Telemachus evade the ambush that was set by the suitors. I think in the movie they did for Odysseus, like Odysseus, hidden as the beggar, was the one helping him. Next up, Eurylochus. Eurylochus's role was not profound enough. It wasn't even profound at all. You barely kind of knew him. If you don't know the story, you just found out who he was in the middle of the movie when he finally said his name to that woman who was like terrified. I think it was Circe. He was like, "My name's Eurylochus." He was like shaking her. He was like, "Don't worry, I'm not gonna hurt you." He's supposed to be a lot more profound. He's Odysseus's brother-in-law. He's his sister's husband. After the whole Cyclops incident, Eurylochus rebels and insults Odysseus in front of all of his men, and they literally get into a fight that's such a big deal that Odysseus almost cuts his head off. Like they pulled their swords on each other. So I don't really like Eurylochus. I think he's really annoying. He was always just nitpicking at Odysseus's like leadership style. So I guess they portrayed the annoying part, because in the movie, brother was mad annoying. Good one, Christopher. You got one thing down. Just one. Next up is Penelope. Okay, Penelope. I'm so sorry, but the acting I was really surprised because Anne Hathaway, in my opinion, can really act. She really can. But this acting job was not very good. It felt rushed, so I don't really blame her. But she also low-key hesitated in the movie. When Antinius was trying to get her to agree with what he was saying, she hesitated and was about to kind of agree and was about to kind of kiss him. Excuse me, not my Penelope, not my Penelope, not the Penelope that I read in this book, okay? She is extremely and fully loyal and does not give in. So that was just a disrespect towards Penelope. They also disrespected her again towards the end of the movie when they left out the biggest part, which I will get to. Okay, I'm not done yet. Next up, Polyphemus, the Cyclops. That whole story, so wrong. So not how it happened at all. Odysseus brings wine to trade. In the movie, he was like, we don't have anything to trade. In the real story, they brought wine, and it's used in the story for their escape. And he brought 12 men with him, okay, to trade and explore the cave. And the giant Cyclops, the son of Poseidon, blocks the exit with a massive stone, which was done in the movie. Good job, Christopher. Here's the difference, though. They did not include any dialogue between Polyphemus and Odysseus. They talked to each other. He tried to trade the wine, and he ignored it. He didn't want to do it. And then he eats some of his men. I think he eats 2 of them and doesn't let them out. And then he finally convinces Polyphemus to drink the wine, and he drank so much that he got him drunk and he passed out. And that's when they drove the hot stake into his eye and blinded him. And in the morning, they did not strap hay on them. They did not strap hay. They strapped themselves to the belly of the sheeps. So when his hand was on the side, because he couldn't see anymore, he was checking to see and making sure that those men weren't leaving. That was intentional. In the movie, it was his hand was just kind of lingering. It didn't feel intentional. His hand was just kind of resting there. Okay, in the story, his hand is up against the sheep, making sure that nobody else is leaving. And then Odysseus has the idea of strapping the men to the bottom of the sheep's bellies, and they're holding on as they're walking out. But no, you decided to put hay that doesn't feel like sheep's clothing at all. I got you. Don't even worry about it. Before the morning time, and they strap themselves to the belly, okay? A very, very important cinematic, crucial part that they left out, which would have been so good if they included it, was before they drove the stake into his eye, when he was drunk before he passed out, the Cyclops asked Odysseus for his name, and Odysseus, being the smart man that he is, said, my name is Nobody. And then, when he passed out and they drove the stake into his eye, his scream was so loud, which I applaud. The movie, they really, really got that scream down. It was terrifyingly loud. It was so loud and overwhelming. So that was really good. My one compliment. That's all you get. When Polyphemus screamed, it was so loud that other Cyclops came running to see what was going on. They were like, who did this to you? And Polyphemus' only answer was nobody. He said, nobody did this to me. So that was extremely, so clever, and they just left it out. Afterwards, when Odysseus finally got out, the Cyclops comes out of his cave. He doesn't chase them to the beach. He comes out of his cave, and he's so big and strong, he takes big boulders and chucks it at the ships. And that makes Odysseus a little bit angry. Odysseus' pride gets the better of him, and he screams out across the water to Polyphemus and tells him and taunts him with his real name and says, my name is Odysseus, king of Ithaca. And so Polyphemus prays to his father Poseidon to curse Odysseus. And that is the literal reason for the rest of the story. that is how Poseidon finds out that it's Odysseus. And that is how he gets cursed, and why all of his men die, and it's so hard for him to get home because of this. And they left it out. It's just such a vital part of the story, and I don't understand why they did that. Okay, we're down to the last 2 points, guys. I hope you're holding strong, okay? The final piece to the story that ties in how beautiful Penelope and Odysseus, their relationship is the bed. This is the part that it is the most important part to me, and they left it out, okay? Penelope is skeptical. After he kills all of the suitors, Penelope is still skeptical that it's really Odysseus. She doesn't believe, okay? So she orders her bed to be moved so he can sleep on it. So like thinking, like saying it's a beggar, like she's testing. Move the bed so you can sleep on it. And he becomes so angry because he literally built that bed out of an olive tree, and the only way to move it is if he cuts it down because it's still rooted in the earth. She then realizes that it's Odysseus because it was only him and her that knew that the bed was connected to an olive tree rooted in the ground. And so then she realized that it was Odysseus, and she burst into tears and runs to him and embraces him. This is what I'm saying, that this movie had so much potential. It was made well in the sense cinematic. It was made well. Following a story? Absolutely not. You disrespected the Odyssey. You disrespected Homer. You disrespected me. This is not it. The final thing is, it goes in with what I've been saying. Because they left out so much, especially how in love they are, the build-up was so mid. So the ending was not that good. Plus, it wasn't really what happened. The movie gives nothing to what it could have been. When you know the potential, when you know the actual real story, and then you watch that, it's just disappointing. If you just like action movies and you like a bit of like older stuff, you'll enjoy it. Excluding the really, really weird freaky parts. That's my take. I would rate this movie definitely a 2 out of 10. And that 2 is very strong too, okay? Don't discredit that 2. 1 point of that is you tried. Number 2 is it was beautifully made in a way. It looked gorgeous. The cinematography, the quality of the movie looked phenomenal. The monsters, the cyclops, the sirens, it all looked really good. It really, really did. I applaud them for that. Everything else was rushed, and still somehow you left out so many things. The focus was on the wrong things, and I understand using creativity and freedom of speech. Some things just you don't need to do that. It was a good experience to watch with my lovely family. It was very, very nice. It was really funny because Stephanie's eyes were closed about 90% of the time. And everything in the movie was like kind of wild. So it was really funny, and it was really good to experience. But I was so upset and disappointed in the movie. But it was fun. It was fun. I had so much more faith in Christopher Nolan. You can't do it all. So yes, that was my take. Thank you so much for listening to me blab on and on and on.
Whoever can string my husband's own bow and shoot through 12 axes clean.